Hi, I'm Noah, 26. And the last time I spoke to my father, he said, "If you're too proud to take the job I pulled strings to get you, then maybe you don't need anything from me." That was 11 months after he paid my full Ivy League tuition, and exactly 5 hours before he changed the locks on my childhood home. I was the kid who followed the rulebook like it was scripture. I color-coded my binders, scheduled my own dentist appointments, and graduated top of my class in computer engineering. My dad loved that. Until I used that education to make a decision that didn't fit into his master plan. The plan went like this: Harvard undergrad. Check. Internship at the defense contractor he'd worked at for 22 years. Check. Post-grad job secured by his golf buddy, a senior VP with an awkward handshake and a 7-figure salary. Also check. But then I said no. Not, "I'll think about it." Not, "Let me try for a year and come back." Just a clean, quiet, terrified no. Because while I was grateful, deeply, painfully grateful, I was also building something. A startup. A small, wobbly prototype that didn't sleep and didn't make money yet, but felt more like me than any badge access cubicle ever could. The moment I turned that job down, my father looked at me like I'd slapped him across the face. Then came the words I'd never forget. "You don't spit on a gift, son." I didn't spit on anything. I just couldn't pretend that my dreams had an asterisk next to them that said subject to parental approval. He cut me off that same week. No rent support. No more phone bill. Even the health insurance got pulled like I was an expired coupon. "You want to be a man," he said. "Then you can pay for your own broken leg." Nice. My mom? Silent. Not out of malice, just out of habit. She'd always been the go-between, the soft echo of his thunder. I got one email from her that said, "We love you, but your father is very hurt. Maybe just take the job?" I didn't respond. Instead, I moved into a shared warehouse space in Brooklyn with my 2 co-founders, Arjun, a soft-spoken genius who codes like he's composing symphonies, and Eli, who talks like a TED Talk and sleeps like a hummingbird. We had 3 laptops, 5 chairs, no funding, and one wild idea: a decentralized security framework that could help small businesses protect their data without mortgaging their soul to the big dogs. We pitched, built, bombed, rebuilt. Ate ramen. Slept on floor mats. Argued over naming conventions and crypto protocols. And slowly, something started to work. Then came the breakthrough. A pilot program with a mid-tier SaaS company. 6 figures. Real revenue. Real traction. I sent my mom a single-line update. "We signed our first client." No reply. But I knew she saw it. She always read my messages even when she couldn't answer. A week later, we got our first write-up in a tech blog. The headline made me laugh so hard I choked on my coffee. "3 kids in a basement just built something Palantir should fear." That's when my father emailed me. Just 3 lines. "Congratulations. Now that you've proved your point, the offer still stands. Take the job. Be smart." I didn't reply. Because I wasn't trying to prove a point. I was trying to live my life. And apparently that was a problem. 2 days after that email, my dad showed up at the office. Now I use the word office generously. It was a converted printer repair shop in Red Hook with flickering lights, exposed insulation, and a back door that only opened if you hip-checked it like a hockey player. But that morning, the CEO of our 3-man band, that's me, walked in to find my father already seated on a folding chair that didn't match the others, wearing a full suit like he was about to pitch Wall Street. "Noah," he said, standing up like this was a hostage negotiation. "Can we talk?" I glanced at Arjun, who was debugging something on a whiteboard while drinking tea from a soup mug that said, "World's okayest developer." "I'm working," I said. "You're always working." "That's why I came here. You think I don't respect what you're doing? I don't think you respect anything you didn't choose for me." He inhaled hard. That nose flare kind of breath that always meant an argument was incoming. "Look," he said, "you're building something. Great. But this isn't sustainable. This office? This setup? It's a dorm room with delusions." I smiled. So was Apple once. "Don't be clever," he snapped. "Be smart. You want to impress me? Fine. Turn your little project into something real, and I'll help you scale. You take the job, start Monday, and we'll fund the company properly. Keep your little startup as a side hustle. Use the job to build leverage. I swear to God, he thought he was being generous. Like I should thank him for letting me moonlight on my own dream. Let me get this straight, I said. You're offering to bankroll the company, if I give up being its CEO? He tilted his head. Think of it as delegation. You're a builder, not a leader. You need someone who knows how to run a business. Like you? He didn't answer. Just gave me that look. The one that always meant I'm right, you'll see. Arjun stood up, silent until now. Mr. Weiss, I appreciate you dropping by, but we're in the middle of deploying a client update. If you want to schedule something. I'm not talking to you, my dad said, sharp as a blade. Eli walked in then, holding a coffee cup and wearing a hoodie that said, Hack the Planet. He looked at my dad, then at me. Everything good? I nodded once. Yeah. Everything's good. My father's eyes flicked from me to them. Two friends who were broke, tired, and still chose me over any guaranteed paycheck. He didn't get it. He never would. You'll regret this, he said quietly. All of it. I stood there, hands in my pockets, heartbeat steady. I hope not, I said. He walked out, slow and heavy, like someone leaving a funeral. That night, the door code changed. My key stopped working. I didn't bother calling. It wasn't the lock that hurt. It was the fact that I still hesitated in front of the door, like some part of me hoped it was just a glitch. It wasn't. The day our lives changed didn't start with fireworks. It started with a server crash and Eli swearing into his hoodie. Our back end had gone down mid-demo with a potential investor on the call, someone Arjun described as a shark in a suit who eats VCs for brunch. Not exactly ideal conditions. I was elbow deep in error logs when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Subject, urgent, partnership inquiry, from NYT Tech Desk. I thought it was spam. Until Arjun looked over my shoulder, squinted, and whispered. That's real. That's Maggie freaking Wong. She writes cover features. The New York Times had picked up on a thread about our security framework, specifically, how it had just blocked a massive ransomware exploit at our first pilot company. Quietly, efficiently, and without a single dollar spent on external threat mitigation. Maggie wanted to feature us. That's when everything sped up. Within 72 hours, we landed a full-page article titled, The Startup That Outsmarted the Hackers. We gained 12,000 new email subscribers. Our waitlist tripled. And we got the call. A mid-level procurement officer at a Fortune 200 company wanted to schedule a meeting with the founders. The real kind. Not a junior scout, not an intern. A guy with actual decision-making power. I tried not to freak out. Failed. Called my mom instead. She picked up on the third ring. Hey, I said. Can I tell you something without it becoming a thing? She sighed. The kind of sigh that sounds like years. Of course, Noah. So I told her. About the article. About the call. About the fact that we might land a multi-million-dollar enterprise license before we'd even secured formal series of funding. She was quiet for a beat too long. Then, your father will be proud. I stared at the ceiling. Will he? Because he changed the locks. She didn't respond. The call happened 3 days later. And by the end of it, they weren't asking if they could see a proposal. They were asking how soon we could onboard. We secured a 3-year contract for $8 million. Paid quarterly. Front-loaded. Which meant we had money in the bank that week. We weren't just getting by anymore. We were officially a player. I texted my dad a screenshot of the contract. No caption. He left me on read. 2 hours later, I got a message from his secretary. Robert Weiss would like to invite you to a dinner at the club next Saturday. Family only. No. Congrats. No. I was wrong. Just a calendar invite dressed in ego. I didn't RSVP. Instead, I took Arjun and Eli out to dinner at the grimiest burger joint in the city and told them we were now the co-founders of a fully funded company with runway for 3 years and a CTO title that finally came with health insurance. Eli cried. Arjun high-fived me and missed my hand. I paid the bill and left a tip big enough to make the waiter cry, too. The next morning, a new lock screen notification. Dad, I saw the news. Proud of you. Let's talk. I looked at the message, then opened my laptop. There were a dozen things more urgent than repairing whatever his version of love was. Things like payroll, client onboarding, and the life I'd built from scratch. I didn't reply. Because maybe for once, he could sit in silence. The problem with sudden success is that people start rewriting history like it's fan fiction. Suddenly, my dad was telling people at his golf club that my son's company just closed a federal-grade cybersecurity deal. Like he'd personally hand-coded the damn thing. Like he hadn't ghosted me for 11 months over a job I didn't take. He even went on LinkedIn and updated his profile to say, Advisor, WiseTech Innovations. We weren't called WiseTech. He wasn't an advisor. But there he was, tagging me in posts like we were partners in a law firm he invented during brunch. I didn't even find out until a recruiter asked if he could speak to our chairman. Chairman. My dad. I almost threw my laptop into the Hudson. Then it got worse. A local business journal reached out to do a feature on multi-generational tech entrepreneurship, because apparently my father gave an interview. He told them I was following in his footsteps. That he was instrumental in shaping the company's early strategy. And this one made me choke on my coffee. Always believed Noah had the leadership instincts to thrive in any industry. I forwarded the article to Arjun with one line, new drinking game, take a shot every time he lies. We were laughing about it until my mom called that night. She started gently. He didn't mean harm. He's just trying to be included. He wasn't excluded. I said. He excluded me. There was a pause. Then she said something I didn't expect. Noah. He's scared. I scoffed. Of what? My open source firewall code. No. Of not being needed. I sat on the floor of our office after that call, staring at the outline of our product roadmap and wondering what it must feel like to watch your own relevance slowly erode while your kid makes headlines. He'd spent his whole life being the guy. And now he was just my dad. Uninvited to the thing he thought he built. I felt a small ache of guilt. The kind that gets in between your ribs and presses like a thumb. So I made a decision. Dangerous, dumb, probably naive. I invited him to the office. Not for press. Not for optics. Just to see it. We cleaned up the cables. Hid the Nerf guns. Put out bottled water like we were trying to impress a senator. He showed up in a navy suit, holding a notepad, like he thought we were doing quarterly reviews. I gave him the tour. Showed him the demo server. The workflow dashboard. The 6-person dev team we'd hired. The wall of post-it notes where we tracked bugs and laughed at Eli's doodles. He didn't say much. At the end I asked, So? He looked around. Quiet. Then said, You did all this, without me. I shrugged. I had help. Just not yours. That's dumb. I saw it in his eyes. He nodded. Then reached into his pocket and pulled out a check. $100,000, he said. No strings. Consider it an overdue investment. I didn't even glance at it. Just pushed it back across the table. Too late, I said. His jaw tightened. You'd turn it down out of pride? No, I said. Out of clarity. He stood up, check still in hand. You always think you're the smartest guy in the room. No, I said again. I just don't let the room decide who I am anymore. He left without another word. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired. But also, finally, unshakable. The official turning point, the moment it became undeniable even to people like my father, was when we got the call from the Department of Commerce. Not a contractor. Not a middleman. The Department of Commerce. They wanted to license our security framework for an internal pilot across 6 agencies. Government pilot programs are like slow-motion jackpots. You don't get fireworks. You get quiet paperwork and an entire floor of attorneys triple-checking your code for liability clauses. But if you pass, you become untouchable. I didn't even tell my mom. I just took the call, signed the NDA, and started sketching system architecture on a legal pad while Eli Liv ranted about federal latency requirements and Arjun casually ran simulations on a laptop held together with tape. 1 week later, we were officially cleared. That night, I opened a bottle of champagne a client had sent and poured it into 3 old mugs. We sat on the floor of our office, Arjun in socks, Eli cross-legged, me leaning against the server rack, and toasted to the fact that we might never need another investor again. That's when my mom showed up. Unannounced. Coat still on. Eyes a little red. I stood fast. "Is everything okay?" She nodded, sort of. "Your father's downstairs." I blinked. "Why?" "He's not here to argue," she said. "He's here to apologize." Eli mouthed bulged asterisk behind her. I didn't correct him. I walked downstairs. There he was, standing beside his car like he was about to offer me stock tips or sell me a timeshare. He didn't say anything at first. Just handed me an envelope. Inside was a printout of the NYT article. The one where Maggie quoted me saying, "We built this because we didn't want to be anyone's side project." He pointed at that line. "That hurt," he said. "I meant it," I replied. "I know." Silence again. Then he did something he's never done in his life. He said the words, "I was wrong." I waited. "I should have supported you when you said no. I should have trusted you knew what you were doing. I was scared, but I acted like I was superior." I let him sit in that. "Why now?" I asked. He looked at me. Really looked. "Because I saw your code in the press release. I read the white paper. And for the first time, I didn't understand any of it, and I realized that maybe I never understood you." "Not really. But that's on me." I crossed my arms. "I'm not a lost college kid anymore." He nodded. "I see that now. And I don't need a dad who only shows up after the ink dries." He swallowed. "You're right. But maybe I can still be the dad who shows up now." That almost broke me. But instead I said, "That's not up to me. That's up to you. And it's going to take time." He nodded again. Slower this time. Then he reached out. Not for a handshake, for a hug. I didn't move at first. Then I stepped forward. Let it be awkward. Let it be quiet. Let it be real. Upstairs, Arjun texted me. "Are we letting the old man invest? Or do we just call this a Hallmark reboot?" I texted back. "Neither. This is a beta release. We'll see if he crashes." A year to the day after my dad cut me off, we flew to D.C. for the agency rollout. It felt surreal. I wore the same suit I bought for college interviews, tailored now, finally fits right. Arjun prepped the demo like it was a NASA launch. Eli brought backup drives, battery packs, and enough paranoia to fuel a Homeland Security committee. We walked into that briefing room not as underdogs, not as someone's kids trying to prove a point, but as founders. Experts. Partners. The rollout went flawlessly. No crashes, no awkward pauses, no gotcha questions from the IT director who looked like he personally invented bureaucracy. We shook hands, took photos for internal newsletters, and left with a standing offer to expand to 9 more agencies in the next fiscal quarter. That night in the hotel lobby, I got a text. "Dad, I watched the live stream. You looked like someone I'd hire." I stared at it for a second. Then typed back. "Me. You wouldn't have. Not back then." He didn't argue. Instead, he wrote, "Dad, maybe not. I wish I could take that back." I didn't answer right away. Because forgiveness isn't just something you hand out like candy at a conference booth. It's something you build. Slowly. With effort. And maybe a little humility. Back in New York, things changed, but not all at once. My dad stopped name-dropping the company like it was his resume bullet. He stopped posting articles with captions like "Proud Dad Moment," and started sending them directly to me with a single emoji. Usually the thumbs up. Sometimes the clapping hands. Once a goat. It was weird. But it was something. He came to our new office once. Bigger space. Real windows. A proper espresso machine that Eli treated like a religious artifact. My dad didn't wear a suit this time. He just walked in, asked questions, listened, and didn't once mention job offers or missed opportunities. At one point, he looked around and said, "You did all this?" I shrugged. "Not alone." He nodded. "Still, it's yours. I couldn't have done it." I looked at him for a second, this man who used to measure worth in paychecks and titles, and I realized something: he wasn't smaller now. He was just quieter. Less storm. More stone. We went out for dinner. Just the two of us. No speeches. No recriminations. He asked about our onboarding flow. I asked how retirement felt. He told me about the boat he hadn't used since 2018. I told him I finally had insurance. It wasn't a resolution. It was a start. And that's all I ever wanted. Not revenge. Not some big family therapy showdown where everyone cries over creme brulee. Just this. A man and his son sitting across from each other, both flawed, both learning, both showing up. 2 months later, my mom emailed me a photo. My dad standing by the dock. One hand on the railing, the other holding a Nexus Innovations hoodie I'd left at their place by accident. She wrote, "He wears it every Saturday." No caption. No hashtags. No manipulation. Just truth. Sometimes reconciliation isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's not even satisfying. Sometimes it's slow, and awkward, and shaped like a learning curve. But it's still worth it. Because if there's one thing I know now, it's this. You don't owe anyone your life just because they helped you start it. But if they're willing to grow, you can meet them halfway. Not because they earned it. Not because they deserve it. But because you finally know who you are, with or without their approval. And that kind of clarity? That's a freedom no tuition check can buy. That's real.